Ford is in a very fortunate situation. We decided many years ago to have an outsized footprint in the U.S. Our manufacturing footprint, the number of vehicles that we make, 80% of our vehicles sold in the U.S. are made here. All of our transmissions, most of our engines, so we have a really big advantage compared to our competitors.
The goal is for the White House to increase production of vehicles here in the United States, but because costs would go up, it's unlikely that that would actually happen. It would end up resulting in companies, car makers, passing on those higher costs to the customer in the sticker price that you see at the dealership.
We're in a complex industry relying on a lot of different suppliers, and we need to ensure that we have the right supply chain ecosystem in place here in the U.S. to do so. And we're working with the administration to get clarity on parts to grow jobs here in the U.S. for us to be able to do that.
America's auto industry stands at the brink of a seismic shakeup. Newly imposed tariffs on imported vehicle parts have thrust the nation into a tense standoff, pitting President Donald Trump against some of the most iconic manufacturers in the United States. Stellantis recently paused production of Compass and Wagoneer S models in April 2025, citing unprecedented cost escalations. Ford, too, faces mounting pressure to adapt or risk losing ground. The stakes have never been higher, and the entire sector is bracing for fallout that could echo through factory floors, small-town communities, and global markets. Tariff-driven uncertainty is already rippling across supply chains, sparking fear among thousands of workers and their families. Is this the moment that redefines American manufacturing and reorders political loyalties? Stick around, because the heart of the conflict is deeper than it first appears, and the outcome could stun us all.
Is that automakers, a lot of those stocks were down today, including Tesla and General Motors. The idea from the president here is that there would be more tariffs levied on imported cars to the United States.
And we may be able to see that live, or see tape playback of that, I should say. We'll get new details on exactly who's being tariffed and what the rates are and all of that later this afternoon. But this is something that the president telegraphed earlier in the week.
At the core of the storm stands a policy shift few anticipated would escalate so rapidly: tariffs on imported vehicle components. The White House insists that protecting homegrown industries must take precedence over cheaper foreign parts. Critics, however, warn that these measures risk unraveling key trade relationships, throwing a once dominant sector into disarray. According to some analysts, these tariffs could tack on as much as $5,000 to $10,000 to the price of an already expensive new vehicle, threatening to shrink sales in idle assembly lines. Ford's chief executive, cautioning politicians against underestimating these implications, laments the potential devastation to affordability.
You know, we could see billions and billions of dollars of pressure on the industry, lost jobs, lots of impacts to communities and our ecosystem in the industry. And that's what we're talking to the administration about and congressional leaders.
Families in Rust Belt states like Ohio, Tennessee, and Kentucky nervously monitor press briefings, fearing that any added cost may force would-be buyers to shop foreign. Meanwhile, President Trump doubles down, suggesting that if a car is fully made in America, it will bear no penalty. Yet the tangled web of global supply chains means few cars truly avoid imported parts. As tensions flare, production halts loom over multiple Ford and Stellantis plants. Will draconian protectionism become the downfall of once proud domestic manufacturers, or will it spark a new renaissance that invests in local fabrication and labor? The eventual answer may lie in the clashing egos and economic philosophies now on a collision course. Front and center is President Donald Trump, rallying national pride while pushing a no-compromise approach that frames tariffs as a direct path to revitalizing America's manufacturing prowess. His argument rests on a simple premise: items made on home turf should be free of import penalties, thus incentivizing companies to expand domestic production. Critics, however, note that the administration has flirted with temporary tariff exemptions, raising questions about whether political calculation or genuine industry support drives these last-minute policy tweaks.
Businesses pulling back, the stock market has been fluctuating for sure. What this means for consumers is that goods and possibly services are going to be much more expensive in the very short term.
On the other side of the ring, Ford's chief executive Jim Farley voices alarm. He contends that tens of thousands of parts go into any single car, many sourced from global partners to keep costs low. He warns that even a 25% levy could prove crippling, forcing Ford to either pass higher prices onto working families or gut its workforce to stay competitive. In a move some label desperate, Ford introduced a From America for America discount in early April.
And our From America for America campaign is intended to be there for our customers, which is why we are offering employee pricing. Customers will pay what we pay as an employee. We have great inventory on the ground. We are not repricing that inventory,
thus chipping a few $100s off vehicles hammered by new fees. Yet it may prove a drop in the bucket if supply chain costs continue to climb. Stellantis, meanwhile, has already taken radical steps. Facing immediate bottom-line pressure, it temporarily halted production of Jeep Compass and Wagoneer S models, a disruptive move that reverberated through assembly plants and local communities. Suppliers, dealerships, and small businesses dependent on Stellantis' steady output now worry this might be just the first domino. Among auto industry voices, many recall Ford's billion-dollar loss from tariff battles in 2018 and wonder if history could repeat on a broader scale. Beyond corporate powerhouses stand the workers and communities, a crucial yet often overlooked faction. The United Auto Workers Union has, somewhat unexpectedly, expressed a willingness to embrace protectionist measures, believing they might preserve and even generate blue-collar jobs in the long run. This stance stands in sharp contrast to Ford's urgent pleas for tariff relief. If factories shutter, the union's gamble could backfire, leaving entire towns in economic ruin. With local economies from the Midwest to the Mid-South on tenterhooks, the pressure mounts with each new headline. Is the union's support a strategic bet on national self-reliance or a perilous dance with disaster? The stakes rise as these players scramble to secure not just quarterly earnings, but also their place in a rapidly evolving automotive landscape. Auto production rarely stays confined within national borders. The closing of a single factory can echo across oceans and continents. Retaliatory measures, particularly from Canada and Mexico, have already begun scaling upward, promising to tack on 25% tariffs on billions of dollars in American goods if current U.S. policies remain intact. Some watchers point to the recent delay until April 2, 2025, for enforcing tariffs on USMCA-compliant goods as a fleeting window. Once it slams shut, cross-border trade could suffer a more grievous blow. Meanwhile, foreign automakers sense an opening. China's role exemplifies this global shift. Certain analysts argue that Chinese manufacturers, bolstered by strong domestic sales, could exploit any slump in American competitiveness. Reports suggesting Chinese brands expanding their electric vehicle footprint in markets once dominated by U.S. giants appear to be accelerating. Observers recall that a previous wave of tariffs cost the American auto sector billions and fueled the rise of rivals who capitalized on the turmoil. The question echoes louder with each passing day. Will China, without the same import hurdles, seize this opportunity to tighten its grip on the EV market? Layered within this complex lattice are the echoes of earlier trade feuds. Republicans once heralded the auto industry as the backbone of American industrial might. Policies from past decades ranged from export restraints to tax incentives, typically designed to shield Detroit's Big Three from foreign incursion. Now, ironically, a pro-business Republican president embraces a hardline stance that may hamper iconic manufacturers like Ford. This about-face illustrates a shifting political landscape that confuses both investors and longtime party loyalists. If the end result is higher prices and diminished sales at home, the blowback could accelerate the flight of consumers toward overseas brands. Beyond the economy, patriotism itself takes center stage. For some, the tariff drive rekindles dreams of a homegrown manufacturing revival. For others, it looks like a forced isolation that risks ceding innovative ground. The interplay of national pride, economic self-interest, and global competition forms a perfect storm where every decision can either spark a renaissance or spark a decline. Right now, tension has reached a boiling point. President Trump not only stands firm on his initial tariffs, but also suggests broadening duties to include aluminum and steel.
President Trump saying that he will impose new tariffs on aluminum and steel.
In 2018, you imposed ad valorem duties, tariffs on imports of steel at a 25% rate. Since that time, a large number of exclusions and exceptions to that tariff rule have been implemented.
Critics and analysts alike fear any expansion will further hammer domestic automakers already grappling with supply chain disruptions. Meanwhile, exemptions remain a faint glimmer of hope for Ford leadership, who quietly lobby lawmakers to soften the blow by carving out exceptions for critical components. But no formal legislative fix seems imminent. Staggering job losses. Will families in Ohio, Tennessee, and Kentucky pay the highest price for these policy maneuvers? Politicians from those states clamor for clarity, some calling for revisions or rollbacks to offset the immediate risk of plant closures. Even so, no unified strategy has emerged. And with every passing day, watchdog groups predict a greater likelihood of entire factories shuttering if the company finances fail to hold up. The cyclical pattern of tariff disputes from years past appears poised to repeat, potentially at an even larger scale. Momentum seems to favor a collision course rather than a peaceful compromise, leaving industry watchers to wonder if we are merely one announcement away from irreparable damage, or, paradoxically, from a new dawn of American self-reliance. As the dust churns and the nation grips this tumultuous chapter, questions loom large. Ford's desperate bid to maintain affordability clashes with the administration's rallying cry for unbending tariffs. Will the White House's plan spark a revolution in domestic auto production? Or will global supply chains unravel faster than factories can adjust? Canada and Mexico intensify their countermeasures, while Chinese automakers watch, prepared to pounce if American brands fall further behind. In this hall of mirrors, uncertainty reigns, and the stakes could not be higher. Could this be the tipping point that changes everything for American auto, potentially reversing decades of global synergy in favor of isolated industrial might? The answer for now remains locked behind policy decisions unfolding by the day. Where do you stand on this unfolding power play between national pride and the global marketplace? The journey continues, and the industry's fate hangs in the balance.